Mama always said I was gonna make it.
Hey, you had a great face for radio.
Welcome everyone. Thanks for being here with us on this special 420 2021 webinar on how to make your own cannabis cocktail and why you probably should, why it's a great idea. We're gonna give everybody about a minute or so to file on in here. If you are already watching at home or the office or both, go ahead and fix yourself a cocktail or a beer or something. As we listen to some ambient bar lounge music, we got a couple great guests here with us tonight. And yeah, we'll get started here just in a moment. My cocktail of choice is a small craft beer by the good folks at Heineken. So they are not sponsoring this event, if anybody's wondering.
I myself am drinking a local LA beer. I'm located here in Southern California. A little spicy mango cart.
Ooh. Oh, that sounds zesty.
Do fruit the beer. Do fruit the beer.
I had a grapefruit beer the other day, and it was delicious. It was the most one of the most more balanced meals I've had in the last few months. You know, it was a nice
vitamin C.
It was very zesty. You know,
you can infuse those grapefruit beers beautifully
with weed.
With weed, yeah, absolutely.
Cannabis.
I did a Belgian lambic beer recently, cherry flavored ale with THC.
Ooh.
Quite delicious.
Yeah, I used to like this
man.
Kind of black cherry lambic one.
Yeah. The Leafmans.
We can
I don't know
like
what a lambic is.
It's like a goes, like those fruit beers that have a little bit of vinegar in them to give them that sour, sour flavor. So they're a sour cherry beer made by incredibly talented beer brewers in Belgium. They're also made.
They're pretty strong too.
But they could be about 8 or 9% alcohol, maybe a little more.
It's that small kind of bottle that's kind of like.
There's all different ones.
Oh, it's good. Oh, I thought it was the name of the brand.
But they're especially good when you put weed in them. Ungodly amounts.
It's like a universal rule, right?
I can imagine. Yeah, definitely. Wow. But you know what? Let's go ahead and get started. I'm sure whoever's here is coming on in. Whoever is stumbling in by now, and welcome. Thanks for being with us. If you're catching up later at home, this is all going to be online, so you can get caught up. Today we have with us the cocktail whisperer, Warren Bobrow, a master mixologist, chef, and author of Cannabis Cocktails, Mocktails, and Tonics, The Art of Spirited Drinks and Buzzworthy Libations. I think, Warren, you got a copy? There it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. It's right over my handsome face.
Awesome. Check it out wherever you buy books. Also with us is Dr. Codi Peterson, a clinical pediatric pharmacist and expert in medical cannabis and cannabis science, and our scientific advisor here at the Cannigma. Codi is also studying for an MS in medical cannabis science and therapeutics at the University of Maryland. Is that right? So
that's correct.
Yeah, go Terps. Yeah.
It's UMB technically. I'm not sure. We're like the Labradoodles or something. No, I'm kidding.
Just claim it, you know. Awesome. So thanks so much for joining us today, guys. This is going to be a real fun one and a great, perfect subject for 420. So I guess, Warren, I was hoping maybe you could just kind of get the ball rolling here. I know whoever's listening, I'm sure, is probably in favor of cannabis cocktails. They don't need to be convinced, but how are they different as an edible than, say, a brownie or a gummy or the traditional cannabis edibles?
I think that's a really good question. They differ in the fact that they don't take an hour and a half to hit you. A well-made cannabis cocktail or even a cannabis mocktail, for that measure, the onset time is anywhere between 3 minutes and 5 minutes, and then the full effect takes place within the hour. Whereas something like a brownie or a cookie or like a hippie cookie or something, that has to pass through your liver, and it's going to be a little while. And so that's trouble many people run into is they eat a brownie and they say, you know, nothing's happening. Well, yeah, nothing is happening until it passes through the liver. And then they made the mistake of eating another brownie, so they overdose. And anyone who's ever overdosed on cannabis, it won't kill you, but you'll wish that you were dead. you don't feel well, you know. And the fact is, unless they read my book, they're not going to know what to do. You know, back when I wrote it in 2015, we really didn't have CBD per se. So you would take you know, a small amount of CBD to counteract the THC. I just recommend drinking some lemon juice and chewing up some peppercorns. It's not pleasant, but
does the peppercorn thing help? I read that. I heard that.
Well,
it was like
Neil Young said that it works, so I believe him.
Yeah. What is he? I think the bottom line is be sure to get Warren's book, or you might die.
No,
or want to die is what he
you're
says.
going to feel
not literally. So what is the science behind that? Why is it quicker if you?
It's quicker because, well, first off, the cannabis has been decarbed, so the chemical reaction is THCA changes to THC with heat and time. And so I decarb my cannabis using a piece of technology called the Ardent LX, which is, I believe it's the LX. It's the Ardent anyway, from the Boston area. And it's a self-contained decarboxylator. So it has a microprocessor-controlled heating element inside of it. There's no fluctuations in temperature, which, you know, like my microwave up here has fluctuations. My oven has fluctuations, but the Ardent does not. So if the cannabis has been decarbed and you add some alcohol or a fatty substance to it, including lecithin, which is brain food, which supercharges the cannabis effect, it's going to hit you pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. And Codi, is there, I guess, an understanding of how the high or the feeling would hit differently because alcohol is also hitting you with the THC? Is that metabolized differently, or?
There's a lot to unpack on what we just talked about. We're going to table the beta caryophyllene and chewing on peppercorns to reverse the high. For the next talk, we're going to do that another time. But you can't be throwing that out there and not expecting me to bite as a pharmacology nerd. So moving past that, definitely. I mean, first of all, anyone who's ever taken a shot or taken a large drink pretty quickly knows that the effects of alcohol are rapid when we drink, right? It doesn't take an hour and a half for alcohol to start taking an effect. And that's because it transmits through our mucous membranes in our esophagus, our stomach, and our intestines pretty quickly. And in the case of taking a cannabis cocktail, it's very feasible and probable that some of that cannabis is actually going to be absorbed with that alcohol more rapidly and have a more local and rapid onset effect. You know, I won't say that it does. It's always going to be within an hour, your max effect, but definitely faster than an edible and not quite as dependent on taking like a high fat meal or with your food, or rather your cannabis.
But does it have to be nano emulsified or do anything like that, or is it just
that technology didn't exist when I wrote my book in 2015. I did everything. I'm a trained chef, a saucier, and I will tell you that I teach you in the book how to do things the old-fashioned way, from scratch. So I'm a scratch-trained chef. You would do everything in the way that I describe in the book with double boilers. And you don't need nanotechnology to get high. You just need a turkey bag, a container that you can decarb your cannabis in, and then good ingredients. And that's it.
You get high with the turkey baster
simple
too.
Science.
And I can tell that you're definitely that type of chef who's going to do things from scratch. I mean, you guys are going to see what he's cooking up for you today or cocktailing up for you today, and know that Warren doesn't mess around. Even his spoon says business.
Yeah. What are you whipping up there in this mad scientist kind of
I'm going to be making
technology?
a mocktail today as opposed to a cocktail. But I did take the time to infuse a shrub as opposed to a shrubbery. The shrub is an acidulated beverage, and it would have been historically correct in the context of an early cannabis cocktail. So the shrub has like a Oregon berry shrub, and then this is just fresh carrot juice. And
Okay.
so it's a shrub, the carrot juice, little Peychaud bitters, and then I grilled some oranges. I don't know if you can see this, but I grilled some oranges, which I'm going to muddle up so you get a much more robust flavor. And then I'm going to shake it up really hard and add it up to this pre-chilled cocktail glass, which is right here.
Ooh. And how much?
It's going to be tasty.
That looks good.
How much THC would be in a drink like that?
I knew I was stressing out over that question last night in my sleep.
I'll just throw out a number.
I will tell you that in this size container, which is just over a pint, there's about an ounce of weed. So that's highly irresponsible.
Well, I mean, we're going through a pandemic here, Warren. It's not.
Well, no one's leaving the house. It's a good thing you're not driving either.
Yeah, for sure. I think anything goes. So that
I think that's actually a really good time for me to chime in as the scientist in the room and say that I am fully. I'm the pharmacist. I'm the adult in the room, right? Cannabis cocktails can be really fun. They're definitely going to hit you harder and different than cannabis alone or alcohol alone. But they're also going to increase your risk of doing something kind of stupid. So be responsible, consume responsibly, don't drive. I know that sounds stupid, but it's actually been shown that co-consuming alcohol and cannabis is the highest risk of using a substance and driving. That's really common to see those two substances together during road accidents.
Yeah,
so is it something to where
because they don't think they're drunk and they don't think they're high, they just think they feel good, and that's
boost your confidence.
Isn't necessarily a good thing.
But is that why you recommend? I guess would you recommend maybe sticking with mocktails or say?
Well, that's why today. Yes, well, why today I'm teaching common sense. Your parents should have taught you common sense. They didn't. So I'm going to teach you common sense. I'm going to teach you that you don't need alcohol in a drink to have common sense. But then again, you can lose your common sense by having one of my drinks and then not waiting that full hour before having another. And that's what I stress. It's not like going to a cocktail bar and drinking 3 or 4 drinks in an hour, which is completely normal. I mean, I was a bartender. I know what people drink, and sometimes they drink more, sometimes they drink less. But with a cannabis cocktail, if you drink more than 2 in an hour, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And it'll hit very quick, and it's, no matter how delicious the drink is, THC is THC, and it affects everyone differently. And I have to go under the pretense that less is more in this case, that you want to start with a very little bit and at least try to be responsible.
Yeah,
I
for
didn't
sure.
make these drinks for recreational use. I made them for medicinal use. I have the affliction of glaucoma, which is a hereditary disease, and it affects my eyes. I probably wouldn't treat, self-medicate myself with 4 or 5 drinks in an hour. That would just be irresponsible.
Yeah.
What I would do is I would take a very little bit, see how I feel, and then go from there. But it's not, it's not a race.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique.
The fastest. I'm sorry.
No, it's certainly, it's going to be a unique experience if you're going to take cannabis and alcohol at the same time. There's no doubt. And it definitely can go more rapidly, but it's what's the word that's on the streets? They say it's a crossfade, right? That's what the kids are calling it.
Yeah. And it is a unique experience, and I will say that of all the experiences that I've had in life, this is by far the most pleasurable. It's not like when I was growing up in the 1970s. Going to your friend's house, opening up their parents' medicine cabinet and taking all the pills out and putting them in a bowl and taking them. That was going on. I think that's a lot more hazardous than smoking a couple joints.
That's a safe bet. I think
I probably agree
for sure.
A pharmacologist, with a PDR in your back pocket.
Was this like a bowl of cereal?
Yeah.
Regardless, that's not something we want to be
doing.
doing. You just.
That's what it was.
Wow. Yeah. There's all types of interesting pills still available there. We don't recommend doing that at all.
No.
So what about
well, again, not unless you're under the supervision of a pharmacologist or a doctor.
Oh, Kevin's got a
even then.
review
Even
here from
then.
Kevin.
I do think it's interesting, though, and there's the research to support this, that when you consume alcohol, we actually see higher levels of THC, at least in THC smokers. So when people smoke a marijuana cigarette, a joint, a blunt, whatever cannabis inhalation method you want, if you have a few drinks on board, you're going to get higher levels in your blood and therefore your brain. So it will be a different experience, and that's backed by the science.
Yeah,
what about,
science isn't always good.
If you have, in terms of, I wouldn't say side effects, but I guess, Cody, like, alcohol.
I would say side effects.
Let's say, yeah, side effects. Alcohol tends to dehydrate you somewhat, and then weed can give you cotton mouth. Cannabis can definitely dry you out. Is that something when the two can kind of work together kind of exponentially or worsen in a way, or should you maybe chase every cocktail with a glass of water, or is that something
that's
I think drinking
practice.
water with your cocktails is a great decision, but I think you really want to hone in on the fact that we want to essentially avoid over consuming, because you can have more adverse effects from those higher THC levels. Normally we think of THC as an antiemetic, or it helps to stop nausea, right? We give it to cancer patients for this reason. But at really high doses, we see the opposite. And if you ask enough of your friends, you'll meet that guy who never smoked weed, but then he tried it that one time, but he was drunk when he did it, and now he vomited and he never tried it again. In fact, you don't have to look very hard to find that person. And so this is really common with alcohol because of the way that alcohol and cannabis interact. Dizziness, lightheadedness, fainting, and vomiting. Those are all in the mix if you're consuming way more than you're used to of either substance.
Mm-hmm. And that's why you should never call the ambulance when you have a cannabis overdose, because first off, they're going to know who you are, and second off, there's nothing that they can do for you that'll make you feel any better other than time.
And you're going to pay for that ambulance ride. Those are expensive. I mean, I'm telling you.
Especially if they send a helicopter.
I mean, you got to pay cash. Anyway, so are there any specific liquors that work better as infusions?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I love, when I'm infusing spirits with cannabis, I love using things that have bad reputations, if you will, like absinthe. I also like infusing mezcal. I do bourbon. It often has a very bad reputation. I like rye whiskey. It has a little less of a bad reputation. I don't do vodka. I think that's just awful stuff. I occasionally do gin because of the botanicals, but I tend to stick to things like chartreuse. Like, let's see, I have a bottle of.
Yeah, I was wondering, is gin, or I guess absinthe like too? Is it things that are plant based?
Is a beautiful thing to infuse because it's made up of over 100 different rare herbs, and it's rolls in at about 55% volume, so 110 proof. It packs a little punch. So when
I think that's
better to use things that have
it's in there.
Botanicals in them.
We like that.
For sure. I think that we should recognize that alcohol has long been infused with botanicals. Many of our drinks and the bitters that we use and the flavorants that we use in our alcohol are very much derived from plants. And then those flavors are the terpenes that the alcohol has pulled out of those plants. And so it's really important to recognize that terpenes, while we talk about them in the context of cannabis, are common to basically all plants. And we eat them and taste them all the time in our food, including our cocktails.
So should somebody try to pair the two? Like try to pair, if your weed is heavy in your cannabis is heavy in a certain terpene, to find a liquor or liqueur that has a lot of that? Or is that a bit too advanced?
No, that's exactly what I do. I mean, I want to match the different strains or different cultivars because they have different terps with ingredients that work with them, and sometimes with ingredients that work opposite them. So you get the different density and different characteristics of flavor that we describe as flavor in a craft cocktail. And when it's time for me to build this drink, I'll be able to show you all the different things that go into the drink that create this premise in your brain that it's like soup. great soup is not just all the ingredients put into a pot and turn it on high and hope for something to happen to it. It's definitely scientific, and this is scientific too, to a certain extent, although I've done all the science already for you. So we don't have enough time here to show you about all the things, all the little techniques that I do. But if you buy my book, you'll have a chance to read about all those little things, and then you have an opportunity to make your own very personal cannabis cocktail. Or mocktail, if they will.
So do you think it's better with most of the recipes that you make or that you would suggest people make, is it usually that you would infuse the liquor itself or infuse a mixer like
absolutely. I do
bitters?
both. I do both. Well, bitters are problematic, first off, because they are dispensed one drop at a time. So you have that. So you're never going to get the concentration necessary to give anyone any sort of feeling. It's like when I appeared on Viceland Live, and they asked me to make them a CBD cocktail that they could feel. Well, there are no CBD cocktails that you can feel. That's called snake oil. What I did is I gave them 50% CBD, 50% THC, and destroyed them on live television because they'd never experienced. And there was liquor in there and grilled blood orange juice, and I did this caramelized grapefruit thing, and it was really incredible. It was a punch. And I remember some of the individuals who were on the show, they had like 5 drinks in 15 minutes. And they were small drinks. They were only about an ounce, but still they were 5. And it had a sort of a weird effect.
They will be missed.
I'm trying to check that episode out. What you said it was on Vice?
It's on Viceland Live. I don't even know.
Wow.
I have it on my Twitter. I'll send it to you.
Awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll have to share that. That looks cool.
And
I hope they've recovered.
I'm sure I'll never be forgotten.
Yeah, I mean, if they remember the whole experience, I'm sure,
Yeah, well, I don't think they did.
No. What about are there specific sort of, like, if you were to do something, I don't know, we got summer coming up, is there a specific sort of cannabis cocktail? I picture, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm
infused.
the one that I'm doing here today is wonderful for the spring because oranges, of course, are, even though in the East Coast we eat them year round, still the best oranges come out in late winter. So these are, organic navel oranges that I grilled in the pan till they caramelized. And then I'm going to add them to fresh carrot juice and a little bit of that berry shrub that's been infused with THC. So when it's time, you'll tell me, and I'll show you how easy it is to mix something that tastes great and looks good and gets you wasted. And for all intents and purposes, I'm not going to be drinking it with you.
For those listening who say, what's a shrub? A shrub is a type of drinking vinegar. So it's sort of a fermented fruit and sugar. And actually, for those listening, the way we produce alcohol is by fermenting sugars with yeast. So the yeast eat the sugar and they produce alcohol. But if you continue that process down the line, you actually get a vinegar, believe it or not. So a shrub is some sort of a mix in between of this alcohol, water, vinegar, sugar blend. And apparently you can infuse it with cannabis too.
Yes, you can. It works very nicely. I wrote a whole book on it called Bitters and Shrub Syrup Cocktails with 75 brand new drinks for the use of shrubs as opposed to shrubberies. See, you guys are just
making a salad.
Remember Monty Python?
Bits and pieces. I mean,
yeah,
I fart in your general direction,
And I was thinking shrubs as opposed to shrubberies. That's in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. You'll have to see it again, and then you'll know.
It's been a while.
You'll say, "Oh, that guy's smart."
It's been a while. I remember the French guys in the castle.
Right, the French guys in the castle.
In the Knights Who Sing Me.
Who were selling the shrubberies.
Me. There you go. So if you show the folks at home what you're working on there with the.
Okay, so I'll show you my ingredients. These are the grilled orange. They're just slices of orange that I grilled, and I'm going to put them in this beautiful little Carico shaker here. Just dropping them in, And then I'm going to take a wooden spoon, the back of a wooden spoon. See if I can show this here. Finally.
Just kind of muddling it up?
Yeah, I'm just muddling them up to release their sugars and the juice a little bit.
Yeah, and they're terpenes. You get that limonene in that.
It smells just like great California weed. That fruit salad smell.
Great.
Nice.
And then I've got a graduated cylinder here. I'm going to pour a bit of fresh carrot juice in. Kind of muddle it around a little bit. Stir it around. I've got a real spoon.
So much goodness going on in there. I can almost like it's gonna taste so fresh. I can, especially without the alcohol, like it's not gonna hit at all. It's just gonna be delicious juice, like roasted orange juice.
And then here's the shrub.
Right on.
Adding a
shrub it up.
Portion of the shrub. So you can't really see in there. I don't know if you can see, but there it is.
All right, pour it on number 2, Ben. I don't know about you.
Okay, I've got some ice in here. I'm going to pour this over the ice.
Yeah.
Cap it up.
Get it, Warren.
Shake it up.
Yeah. Get after it.
Yo, I got to think after like a real long night of being a bartender, shaking that thing, you'd be pretty sore, right?
Right, and then here's a nice chilled glass.
Okay.
This is gonna be pretty, I can tell.
And since I forgot my my strainer upstairs, I'm gonna be straining it just down on the bottom of the table so I don't ruin everything. Bear with me for a second. I'll hold it up so you can see it.
Do you have a seconds? We were trying to work on a name for this drink. We think it's Sunday Sunrise.
Sunday Sunrise, sure. There it is. Okay. And then I'm just going to add a couple drops of Peychaud bitters in it. And Peychaud's was originally invented for dysentery, to stave off dysentery. So
and what flavors is Peychaud going to give us, Warren?
Peychaud
yeah, sorry, excuse me.
Like I don't know. Let's see how I can explain it. Has a little.
I feel like dysentery was often a side effect of alcohol.
It has like an absinthe flavor, like a licorice flavor.
Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah, it's very pretty. I mean, I really like those viscous drinks. I can kind of like, you got a lot of mouthfeel, it looks like.
Oh, this is a beautiful drink.
Like a gazpacho.
Man, Warren, we're going to have to find a way for you to really teleport us like one of those each.
We need smell of it.
This is, you know, I have to stress a couple things. Always use fresh juices. Never use canned or bottled juices when you can use fresh. Really, really important. I can't stress it enough. I have to say that I judge cocktail events, and in the past, and I've seen so many beautiful drinks ruined by the fact that the individuals who made them didn't use fresh juices. So always use fresh juices. Try to use good ice. I try to cut my own ice. Today I didn't, but normally when I'm doing like a high-end cocktail event or even a mocktail event or just any event with a cannabis drink in it, I make sure that I use good ice.
You cut your own ice? What does that mean?
Well, yeah. Well, I take a big block of ice and I take like a saw and I slice the ice into cubes and
just like a big block.
My own cubes. And hopefully that ice doesn't taste like the garlic pasta that was lurking in the back of your refrigerator for 2 weeks. That's really important. So I take a plastic bag, like this, and I put it over the ice tray and seal it up so that the other flavors, they're expanding themselves around the refrigerator and freezer, don't turn my ice into an amalgamation of all those flavors and scents that are suddenly in my ice, ruining my expensive spirits or expensive weed. I don't want that. You ever make ice and smell it and it smells really off? I mean, you can't have that in a craft cocktail because anything that you put on top of that is going to smell like that.
You are a connoisseur, Warren. I just want to say, you're taking it to another level, and I fully respect it. I'm down.
Well, yeah.
The attention to detail. I mean, if you ever like have a a really nice. I mean, anybody's had the notice the difference when you've gone to a bar and they have like dollar rum and cokes, or they have like the guy in the suspenders making with the garnishes and the juices.
Well,
I mean,
that's me. That's what I need a job, and I got a job as a bar back, and I learned how to do this craft that we call bartending and make it my life. And you see what it led to. It led to something really incredible. I quit drinking hard spirits in July of 2018 down in New Orleans at the event called Tales of the Cocktail. I'm a beer and wine guy now, but I used to be beer, wine, and everything else that rolled on the planet. And I don't do that anymore. And I'm a much healthier man because of it, I believe. But,
New Orleans has driven a fair number of people to stop drinking, I'd assume.
Yeah.
We had a question here.
And it makes
how much weed do you use to make 16 ounces? How much weed does it take?
How much weed for 16? Well, let's just look at it in a different matter. I usually infuse a 750 ml bottle, and that takes 28 ounces. No, not 28. 28 grams. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Not ounces, but 28 grams. It takes 9 ounces.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. 28 ounces. That would be terribly irresponsible. No,
that would be impressive and foolish.
So it would be impressive for someone else.
Decarboxylate an entire ounce of cannabis, and then what extraction are you using to put it into the chartreuse?
I just shove it in the bottle.
What method? You just let it extract at room temp for how long?
Yeah, for like a month.
Okay, cool. So it's that easy, guys.
You can do it.
You just leave it in a cool place, put it in there, and
I put it in a ball jar or a mason jar because it's tough to get it out of the bottle once it's in the bottle. But a wide mouth jar, it usually works the best. The other way that you can do it is doing like on a hot plate, but never use gas because you'll be that guy that blows up the apartment building. You want to make sure,
or at least his
that,
hand.
If that you use fans and you use an electric hot plate, and you can do the infusion in like an ISI. I use those whipped cream things that uses nitrous oxide. You can put the weed in there. You can put the liquor in there, and charge it with 2 or 3 whippets, and that forces the THC into the molecule of the alcohol. Then you just activate it by heat inside the.
Just be clear, is this for our viewers like the cracker you use for whippets?
Yeah, for whippets. Yeah, but it's to make whipped cream. They call it an ISI or an ISI.
The cracker.
But it you put the weed in there and you put the alcohol in there and you charge it 3 times, giving it a good shake in between each time, and that literally forces the THC into the alcohol. This is like space age stuff.
Cody's acting like he doesn't know what that is, but
it's okay. He knows a lot of things that I don't, and he's seen the bodies too. You know where they're buried. The thing is with the technique that I'm describing was established by a guy named Dave Arnold. He's a gastromixologist, kind of like I do with weed, he does with liquor. And I saw him do an event down at Tales of the Cocktail. I don't know, it was probably 10 years ago. And he was infusing cilantro into vodka. And that was his method. And I said, well, if you can infuse cilantro into vodka, maybe you can infuse cannabis into, anything.
Yeah, because if you're infusing the cilantro, you're really infusing the terpenes and the flavonoids from the plant into the vodka. So it totally, and cannabis also a lipophilic molecule, so it definitely will go in. So I love it, Warren. Those are 2 really good methods to do a home alcohol extraction. I think that TC Simpson wanted to know with the hot method, when you do use that hot plate in a fan, how long do you have to do that for? Is that 4 hours, 24 hours?
Not more than an hour. Definitely
an hour. Okay.
It really doesn't take that long, and
once it's decarbed, right?
once it's decarbed, it's pretty much active. It's not like having to use a rice cooker or a slow cooker. In fact, those things should never hold alcohol because they're usually not UL rated for alcohol, and if you had a fire, that's a bad thing. So
yeah, you explode.
You're going to, but if you did, it would not be a good thing. So I try to use the technology at my disposal, which means no technology at all.
So you're all about
he's a simple man.
Well, I want to make it simple, and I want to make it safe. So that's when I started using the ISI, the ISI. I use the ISI that's meant to be heated. So there are ones that you use for home use, and they're made of plastic. You probably don't want to put that into simmering water. But the ones that are made of stainless steel, those, you go into any professional kitchen today, not that you would, but I do occasionally for my work, and I see how they hold sauces. They hold them in these ISI, dispensers that can literally go into boiling water without worry about having them explode. And that's important.
You mentioned asking about tinctures here and Everclear and whatnot. Do you use just taking a cannabis tincture and just putting it directly into the cocktail kind of after the fact?
That's really bitter, and it's going to change the balance of your drink, and it's going to make it unpalatable. I mean, I know that I've seen people put a dropper of a weed tincture in their rum and coke and say they made a cannabis cocktail. I think that's lazy. It's also going to change the whole balance and flavor of a drink. The drink is meant to taste good, not taste bitter. Now, I do use bitters, cocktail bitters in my drinks, like we did today with the Peychaud's. I think it's very important to use, good quality ingredients. But you're not using more than 2 or 3 drops in a drink as opposed to tincture. You might end up using an entire dropper full, and that's just going to make the drink unpalatable.
Oh, and TC has a question here. Is there maybe one that's better? Maybe like a glycerin one or alcohol one, or you kind of just?
Well, even glycerin one has alcohol in it. As I learned, I'm releasing a product in June in California. Doc, this is for you. Named Klaus after my 1850s German drinking gnome. And it's a cannabis mocktail, and I tried to use bitters in it, and the process board doesn't allow that, because even just something like this that doesn't, it says 35% alcohol. You can't use this in California in a cannabis cocktail legally, or a cannabis mocktail legally, because it has too much alcohol. It can only be like 0.6% or something. It's very, very small amount. Whereas this is 35%. So even if I put 2 or 3 drops in my drink, it's not going to test out.
Right. Okay. Interesting that there's those strong restrictions on what is a true cannabis only mocktail versus a cannabis alcohol cocktail. Okay.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen with any alcohol. The laws of the land have to change. And I hope
because they can't sell it.
It'd be nice if it did, but it's not quite. I'm sorry. What was the question?
That's because legally they can't sell with both.
They can't mix alcohol and cannabis in a commercial setting.
Right, and bitters are considered alcoholic. It's a different.
Yeah, I'm wondering what they're afraid of, but that's not for me to say.
I mean, they're selling both at the same store, right? So it's kind of like you just.
Well, no. Alcohol,
no, there's never like.
That's a
they're just now getting. Yeah, they're just now getting to a point where cannabis consumption lounges or public venues are now a thing here in California. There's a few states that are doing it. If anybody's going to do alcohol and cannabis first, it's definitely Oklahoma. If we got any Oklahomas listening,
I know they're not there at all.
It's
that state is wide open. That's like what California was before Prop 64.
They're all
they really went hard on their medical program. I mean, they got
medical program is getting clogged out, and that's what we're worried about here in New Jersey, because they can't even supply the medical users that exist now. What's going to happen when it turns completely rec? We don't know.
But now you're speaking my language, y'all.
I mean, they just switch over. I mean, a number of them.
Yeah, there's just not enough
yeah,
to go
it's a
around.
problematic situation for sure, where medical cannabis patients aren't necessarily getting the access to the consistent medicine that they need, but not really the topic of our cocktail conversation.
So what
But
about-
it is, but actually it is, because the reason why I wrote my book, Cannabis Cocktails, this little book here, was because I wanted a non-confrontational way of taking my medicine that others wouldn't know my business. So when you go out in the street and you
Makes
smoke
sense.
a joint, even if it's for medical use, everyone has the preconceived stigmas. If they're young, probably not. But if they're my age, 60 years old,
Yeah.
they're going to have stigmas. And so they know all your business. But when you drink a drink, a cannabis drink, as I see, enjoying the can down there, your cannabis drinks, they don't know what it is. And so you don't have that stigma. And that's why I wrote the book. And I wrote the book because, it's very personal to me not to get arrested. And as I said, growing up here in New Jersey, where there's plenty of stigmas, and even though they've legalized it, still you're inviting a visit from the man. When you light up in the street, no matter what, you're going to get the wrong attention. And that's why this book is so effective, because, I'm going to teach you 75 ways to enjoy a cannabis cocktail that looks as every bit as much as the most beautiful and well-crafted regular cocktail in the world. And I know my work is that good. And, I'm not just tooting my horn. I'm telling you that that the ingredients that go into what I make are the best in the world. And you can't mess it up unless you use like a tablespoon of tincture in a drink and wonder why it's all out of balance.
I love it, man. The confidence is just, you're just exuding it.
Now we got Shelly wanting to move to Oklahoma. So I guess that's we're responsible for that. But that's the move, Shelly. Have either of y'all ever tried any of these cannabis beverages that they're now selling? They're now selling in California and a few other places. Infused kind of soft drinks and whatnot. Recommend them, or they kind of?
I mean, I've done a lot of research before I got into the ready-to-drink cannabis cocktail or cannabis mocktail market. I spoke at the Cannabis Drinks Expo a few years back in California, in South San Francisco, and they asked me to be a keynote speaker, and I told them cannabis drinks suck, because they do. Because most of them are seltzers. Because if I want to drink seltzer, I'm going to drink San Pellegrino, and that, or whatever, Saratoga or something at my table. And I'm not going to ask to have it, be cloying and sweet and candy-like, and it gets you high. Well, that's not what my own project is not that at all. It's the best ingredients the money can buy with the best nano, technology emulsion that money can buy, that has all the terps, that tastes like weed, that smells like weed, that works with the other ingredients, that makes something truly unique that no one has ever done before, and get it to you guys in California. ASAP.
And that's your aim at Klaus, Warren?
That's Klaus, yes. Drinkklaus.com is our website. DrinkKlaus.com. Drinkklaus.com. And then you can see what I'm working on.
Yeah, I look forward to checking that out. I think integrating drinks is a really important thing, and why I think this webinar was really important for us to do is we need to normalize cannabis. Cannabis shouldn't be this weird thing that has to be taboo. We should be able to integrate it into our normalcy, and part of that is getting drinks that look like these little 12-ounce seltzers or whatnot, and just making it available for people to feel like, hey, they can just imbibe in this, and guess what? It doesn't come with the hangover. People don't get as aggressive, and it's really not as unhealthy. One thing that I wanted to point out on this talk, so I'm going to steal the stage from you here, Ben, is I think it's really important to note that alcohol and cannabis work totally differently. Cannabis is a specific molecule, in particular THC, just to make it simple, right? Cannabis has many molecules, but it's from the plant, and it has a specific target in the body, these endocannabinoid receptors. But alcohol really doesn't have any specific target in the body. It's a byproduct of this bacteria eating the sugar, and it gets into every little nook and cranny of our bodies, and it causes a little bit of damage. I mean, the truth is, if we want to define alcohol, it's kind of poison. It's fun, it's part of our society, but it is by definition a poison. And so it's a very different experience, and we should be able to choose which one we want.
Yeah. But I guess maybe that brings to the next point. Like, do we see, or Warren, do you see that, I guess in some sort of like perfect future, we could have that same sort of experience, but with cannabis? In other words, bars, happy hours, drinks. People actually meet up after work and order a cannabis cocktail.
Well, I mean, my recipes go back to the 1800s. I was down in New Orleans at the Pharmacy Museum doing a book signing for my book, Bitters and Shrub Syrup Cocktails, and they were doing an exhibit of cannabis in the early apothecary. So they were making mocktails and cocktails in the 1800s. So what I'm doing now is absolutely not new.
Yeah.
And you have
by
to
definition
the recollection of pre-electricity. How did you keep things fresh before electricity and cooling? You did that through alcohol, and fragile herbs and spices need to be preserved. Otherwise, they're going to rot. So cannabis happens to be one of those things that gets into an aqueous solution. I believe it's an aqueous solution that will take, that takes the THC and puts it into an aqueous state and allows you to get high from drinking it as opposed to smoking it. And I like that.
Yeah. It's pretty cool for sure. Tincture of cannabis, which is an ethanol or alcohol extraction, is definitely one of the oldest methods of extraction, other than, of course, smoking and heating. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. So that's why I wrote the book, because I wanted to be cool.
Well, mission accomplished. Definitely. I don't have a cannabis cocktails book that I wrote. We had a really good question here from TC. She said TC Simpson, a lot of people always want the highest amount of THC possible. What does a safe amount to drink, in your opinion? I guess it depends on the person, but there are kind of rule of thumb.
There is a rule of thumb. I think that chasing THC is flawed. I get a better effect off of low THC, high CBD strains than I do from just high THC strains. You get high, but I have a much more satisfying experience on something that's under 12% THC as opposed to chasing 37, 38, 39% THC. You get burned out on that stuff. I like landrace strains for the fact that they're a little less potent and
naturally balanced.
More medicinally. What's that?
They're naturally balanced. I mean, Mother Nature didn't crank out 30% sensimilla THC, and so I agree. And I think the medicinal effects, we know this scientifically, that a balance of THC and CBD can reduce the side effects of THC. So I think that totally lines up and makes sense. Amount to drink, I think, TC, we should touch on that for sure. Look, average dose, like when we unit dose cannabis, is about 5 milligrams, 2.5 to 5 milligrams. That's probably a good starting dose for the most users. If you're a really heavy drinker, heavy cannabis user, I'm sure you can push the dose. And as Warren mentioned, you don't have to consume responsibly. We encourage you to, but if you don't, you certainly could consume more than that without having like harmful consequences, but it could certainly be unpleasant.
Yeah, but it's going to wear off in time. So nothing like, it's not like your multi-day hangovers that I used to have when I'd go down to New Orleans in the summertime and wondering why I felt so sick for the entire time I was there. It's going to wear off. It doesn't take multiple days. You might feel a little groggy the next day, but no hangovers. I mean, that's why cannabis drinks are so popular, because they offer you a nice buzz and you don't have any remorse the next day. And it's true. You don't feel badly about what you did because you didn't do anything wrong in the first place. It's not like being drunk. And I'm calling attention to the mocktail as opposed to the cannabis cocktail. The cannabis cocktail you can get into a lot of trouble with.
Yeah.
Just keep that in mind.
See that.
You can get in a world of trouble. I teach you. I give you all the tools to destroy all your neighbors, like, you know, knock down a family of rhinoceroses. I teach you how to do that, but I didn't teach you to do it for fun. I taught you to do it in case, you know, you have my cat is in the way.
There's a kitty.
There we go.
You gotta love a camera queen. That's great.
Oh, we had to start with the cat. Awesome.
But you really have you know, in life you have choices, and you can choose to be responsible or you can choose to be irresponsible. I like irresponsible until someone gets, you know, loses an eye. So that's important. You want to, you know, keep it, as I said, low and slow. It's like good barbecue.
The mocktail,
you know,
I think the mocktail option also, I think it also is for the people who want to have that drink experience, the happy hour with friends, but deal with all the side effects of alcohol. So I think
exactly,
you know, like in theory, arguably the mocktail is kind of the better option, because you're getting that same sensation. You're not getting the alcohol, obviously, but you know, of meeting up with friends, having a good time, and probably nobody's going to get in a fight. Probably nobody's going to make really bad decisions.
Yeah, it's not like this.
Maybe.
It's not like mixing cannabis with Malort. I don't know if anyone knows what Malort is. Malort's from Chicago. It's Jepson's Malort.
Oh, is it that liqueur they drink in Chicago?
You drink it, you want to fight your dad.
Yeah, I read about that.
Malort. I'm gonna have to read about it, because I'd imagine this is a botanical product, though, right? So this is some.
Oh yeah.
This is some. Yeah. So this is alcohol and terpenes, y'all. I'm telling you, there's this connection.
With a very little B.
But speaking of terpenes, do terpenes in cannabis, do they transmit or metabolize it when you drink it in the same way as when you smoke it, or does your body not take them in the same way?
It's different for sure. You know, just like anything that we take orally, a lot of it's going to still have to go through the liver. We talked about how some of it with alcohol will bypass it. That's the case with oral terpenes too. Some of them will bypass and not make it there, but some of them will have to go through the liver still, and it'll break them down rather rapidly. So definitely it is different inhaling versus ingesting terpenes, 100%.
Okay. So if anybody listening has a question they'd like to ask before we get on out of here, feel free. We got some really good ones coming in here. And I think people are learning some things.
I hope so.
That's my aim.
I hope that they experiment also. You know, the idea isn't just to buy a book because it looks good on your shelf. The idea is to buy a book because it gives you some valid, you know, reasoning to wanting to do things a certain way. And it just happens to be my opinion, but that doesn't mean that you won't have your own opinion. And, you know, one of the things when you buy my book is you get me with it. So if you have problems or considerations or things that you need to have, you know, things you need to have solved in the book, get in touch with me. I'm very easily gotten in touch with. I've never turned anyone down for questions. And what author do you know who's ever answered anything? Well, I'm one of those authors.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it's a good looking book.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful book. It looks like a great coffee table.
Did a beautiful job.
Oh, I love it. Well, I think we definitely got a lot of interest in the book. I can see people are really, really looking to try out cannabis mocktails and cocktails. I think definitely go find it wherever you find books online, or there's also, I assume, a Kindle version of some sort.
Yeah, there's Kindle, there's Apple eBooks, all the different channels. It's available all over the world. I'll tell you, the one place that my book sells more than any other place is Australia.
Interesting.
It's really incredible.
Huh.
Any idea why? Like they just like they're. I mean, because it's my understanding that Australians like to drink too. So I mean.
But they want to mix weed with their drink.
Oh.
It's
not,
well, like, I mean, obviously you got to do a book tour in Australia.
Those days are gone. You know, the only, it's funny when you look at publishers and they talk about people going out on a book tour. That's my own money, not the publisher's money. So we're not going to Australia anytime soon. Yeah.
Oh man,
They make you pay
Bummer.
back everything, including your advance.
The advance you got to pay back, right? And see, they don't.
You have to pay it back at your book rate. So if you get 1% or 2% for every book sold, you have to sell a lot of books to pay that back. I know I'm on my 9th grade and I've just paid it back.
Yeah. Well, this has been a whole lot of fun, y'all. I had a great time, and I can definitely tell everybody watching had a great time and is really interested in this. Again, if you're going to drink cannabis cocktails, do so responsibly, or at home with the doors locked. And turn off your cell phone. Just just be safe, responsible, and have a good time. And use the best, highest quality ingredients. Right? That's
yeah, absolutely. Fresh
key.
Juices always. I know that in America here we have nothing but choices on bottled juices. That's just lazy. I use fresh with everything.
These guys hardcore. I don't know. I love it, Warren. I definitely need to check out one of your cocktails. I don't know if you're still mixing them up for the public, but I'm trying to get me one of those. I might take the alcohol with mine. I'm not gonna lie.
When I roll out Klaus in LA, I'll make sure you get an invite.
I'm going to the opening party. I'll be there, Warren. I look forward to it.
We're serving pizza and martinis.
Yes, that's speaking my language. I want to thank everyone today too for having me on here. I love working with you guys at the Cannigma. I like learning about this, and I like reminding everybody that these two substances have long been consumed together. In fact, they're very commonly still consumed together. So we know that it's relatively safe, but there are some places where you might stub your toe along the way, like consuming too much. So really knowing that when you're intoxicated, you're going to get a much more profound high, and taking that into account is really important. So 420, consume responsibly and consume mindfully.
Yeah, and happy holidays, everybody. Hope you're all having a great day out there. And cheers. Yeah?
Cheers. I'm going to smoke a
thanks for being with us, y'all. All right, y'all.
All right.
Have a good
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Be well.